Hello and welcome to News Central TV. I am Adebola Adedugba. The headlines. President Tinubu taxed Nigerians to feed the nation, have more for exports. Nigerian Senator Ningi insists 3.7 trillion naira not traced to any project in the budget. Angola suggests meeting between Kagame and Tshisekedi over regional insecurity. Details shortly. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has flagged off the food security and agricultural mechanization program in Niger State. He noted that his administration remains committed to ensuring food sufficiency and protecting local industry for sustainable economic growth. The project, an initiative of the Niger State government, is for deployment of agricultural machinery and technology for large-scale agro-value chain developments in the state. President Tinubu said the events represent another step in the food security and agricultural mechanization agenda. He urged sub-national governments to implement wage awards in their states.
It is that time now for Nigeria to change the challenge and make it an economic opportunity. We must care for people. We must reorient our farming population, including livestock program. I don't see why Nigeria cannot feed all the pupils in our school with 1 pint of milk in a day. If our dairy system is well harnessed, I'm glad Abdurrahman Abrasad, the governor of Kwara State, is here. He's equally a farmer and investor. And I am talking to Father earlier. So please.
Over the weekend, Nigerian Senator Abdul Ningi accused Senate President Godswill Akpabio of alleged budget padding in the 2024 budget. The senator claimed the budget has been inflated by over 3 trillion naira through the inclusion of questionable projects. Amidst this controversy, News Central perpetual Fasumi Peter aims to examine the validity of the senator's claims in her reports.
Following the allegation by the chairman of the Northern Senators Forum, Abdul Ningi, that Senate President Godswill Akpabio inserted projects worth over 3 trillion naira in the 2024 budget, an analysis of public records from the president's budget presentation to the budget approval by the National Assembly on December 30, 2023, contradicts this claim.
An aggregate expenditure of 27.5 trillion naira is proposed for the federal government in 2024.
The Senate should consider and approve the bill for an act to authorize the issuance from the Consolidated Revenue Fund account the total sum of 28 trillion 777 billion 404 million 73,861.
While the senator claimed that the Senate inserted projects worth 3 trillion naira, the actual difference between what the president presented and what the National Assembly passed is only 1.2 trillion naira. On the day the budget was passed, Senator Olamilekan Solomon, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriation, provided reasons for this difference.
Executive forwarded requests for additional funding and some item of expenditure to the committee which were not included in the bill as submitted by the executive in order to accommodate the request, and the following adjustments have been made on the bill. 1. The foreign exchange differentials. 2. The GOE revenue increase. 3. The GOE personnel reduction. 4. Service-wide vote weight adjustment. And 5. reduction from service-wide.
Crux of the controversy is his claim that the federal government has been operating two versions of the 2024 budget. The presidency has since refuted the claims by the senator, adding that it was concerning that the sitting senator could raise unsubstantiated claims to fuel divisive rhetoric. However, in a report published by the Nation newspaper on Monday, March 11, 2024, Senator Abdul Ningi denied saying Tinubu's government was implementing two budgets but insisted that projects worth 3.7 trillion naira in the 2024 Appropriation Act are not traceable.
Money, project, location. But we are yet to ascertain 3 trillion of that budget. We have established the 3 trillion in the budget. We have not established its location and the place.
News Central will continue to monitor this developing story, striving to shed light on the path towards a transparent and accountable budget process. In Lagos, for News Central, Perpetua Fasomi Peter.
Nigeria's President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, has charged the committee members investigating the payments of 30 trillion naira ways and means secured from the Central Bank of Nigeria by the immediate past government in the last 10 years not to leave any stone unturned, as they must go after those involved. Here is a report packaged in our studio.
The Nigerian Senate has inaugurated an ad hoc committee to probe the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari over the 30 trillion naira ways and means advances from the Central Bank of Nigeria, which was approved by the 9th National Assembly. The National Assembly is probing ways and means through which the current economic hardship came to be and ascertain why citizens have been plunged into crippling deprivation.
The Chairman, Senate Committee on Health.
Inaugurating the committee on Monday in Abuja, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, noted that unraveling the mystery behind the advances remains key in understanding the country's present predicament.
As it is charged with the investigation of the ways and means of about 30 trillion, including the expenses or otherwise, utilization, success or failures of the Anchor Borrowers Program. To the members of this esteemed committee, I implore you to approach your responsibilities with the utmost sense of patriotism, professionalism, and integrity.
According to Akpabio, the success of the investigative panel hinges on collaboration, cooperation, and steadfast commitment for the benefit of Nigerians. He charged the committee to leave no stone unturned in pursuit of the truth about 30 trillion naira ways and means loans advances.
Let us set aside personal and partisan interests, focusing solely on the task at hand. By working harmoniously with the executive and all interest groups, we can ensure that the ways and means, so-called, and utilized in the country, even the one in the past, and if it should ever occur again, are managed prudently, efficiently, and in accordance with the laws of the nation. Moreover, confidentiality is paramount to your work.
Senators are here.
The event, which took place at the National Assembly complex, had in attendance Deputy Senate President Senator Barau Jibrin, other senators, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy Wali Edun, Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria Yemi Cardoso, and Minister of Budget and Economic Planning Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, among others. Responding, Chairman of the 17th member committee, Senator Isa Jibrin, assured the probe will be carried out with precision to a logical conclusion.
Various discussions. The ways and means and the Adebola schemes have aroused various forms of discussions amongst individuals and groups. with groups and individuals giving their opinions and interpretations. Your Excellency, the implication of this is that Nigerians are waiting for the result of this investigation. I want to assure you that we are going to carry out this assignment expeditiously, but without any form of compromise.
The ad hoc committee has 6 weeks to investigate 30 trillion naira ways and means advances and 10 trillion naira expended on the Anchor Borrowers Program, among other intervention programs.
And to unpack these, I'm joined live by a public affairs analyst, Catch Ononuju. Good morning, Catch. It's good to have you join me.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let me kick off by asking you what your thoughts are on the Senate probing the 30 trillion naira ways and means of the last government.
Oh, well, I will tell you, a lot of us who have expressed our doubts about the genuineness of the parroted intentions to interrogate corruption by the current administration have consistently stated that until the 30 trillion naira printed by MFLA and then looted by politicians in the name of different kind of programs like Anchor Borrowers and the rest, because we believe those money looted, stolen, are the ones being used to put the excessive attack and pressure on the dollar. And that is being responsible for the runaway inflation that we've had in our country. Now that the administration has agreed and has now asked the Senate to go forward in doing these interrogations, I believe we're all now waiting to see how they will go through it with the time that's given to them. Please do not listen to what they are telling you. We believe that all the money stolen that is being used to put pressure on the dollar are in that 30 trillion. And until those questions are asked, I do not see us making any headway in regards to our stories about fighting corruption.
Catch, I hear you, but do you think this is a mere talk shop by the Senate, or are corporates likely to be sanctioned?
It's not an issue of being likely to be sanctioned. What we believe is this is where the funding for the attack that puts the pressure on the foreign exchange market comes from. And if you don't go after these particular people, you will never be able to arrest the pressure on the foreign exchange market. So yes, because a lot of politicians in the APC are also linked to those corruption in regards to that money, 30 trillion being stolen. Some of them may not want to do the right thing, but I can assure you, when you start asking questions, those who are spending out of the loot will advise themselves that questions are now being asked in regards to this loot that I'm keeping and using to do this pressure on the dollar.
But experts says this probe is a case of a pot calling the kettle black, as the Senate's leader, Godswill Akpabio, was part of the 9th Assembly that approved the ways and means of 23 trillion naira and also a supplementary budget of 7 trillion naira. So what are your thoughts on these?
Well, those are the things you're saying. All I can tell you right now is that despite what they said, despite all the accusations about Akpabio being part of it, that does not vitiate the fact that these offenses occurred. So those who actually took this money, this 30 trillion, are the ones we believe putting pressure on the dollar. If Akpabio is part of it as they state, he knows that he is also being warned. So for me, it's an important thing that we interrogate the reasons for the pressure on the foreign exchange market. And if part of those who participated has been alleged are now standing up to ask themselves these questions, then you know that the country is going somewhere.
Well, thank you so much for your insight on the news. Catch Ononuju, a public affairs analyst. Thank you once again.
Thanks for having me.
You're live with News Central TV. Let's take a short break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying tuned. Now let's talk about security. In the bid to address the ongoing farmers-herders clash in Nigeria, the federal government has launched a pilot cattle ranch in Yobe State. The National Agency for the Great Green Wall Initiative aims to provide a sustainable solution and reduce the frequent clashes between these two groups, the farmers and herders. News Centre's Umaru Kirawa has details.
It has been a long-standing conflict between farmers and herders that has been a major source of concern in Nigeria. The government is strategizing on a pilot cattle ranch in northeastern state of Yobe.
And we felt that it is right time for us to intervene by establishing a cattle ranch for that farm that will enable the herders to be positioned in one place without necessarily migrating and without necessarily encroaching into farmers' land where there will be a crisis that could not be avoided.
The pilot ranch, a joint effort between the government and local stakeholders, will serve as a model for future ranches. The initiative is said to be replicated across 11 Nigeria's northern states impacted by climate change.
The value chain related to the livestock is quite enormous, that if it can be tapped very well, it will transform the Nigerian economy positively. We can shift away from fuel to go to livestock, because the potentials contained in the livestock sector is quite enormous, that is enough to transform the Nigerian economy positively.
To ensure its success, the federal government, through the National Agency for the Great Green Wall project, has commenced capacity building training on cattle ranching in Yobe State. The training seeks to equip herders with modern ranching techniques, herd management practices, and livestock value chain operations.
Cattle rearers, the Fulanis, they are here in this training. I think you have heard them. And then the community leader, that is the person representing the emir of Guru, he has talked to us in our language that we understand.
If the government brings in the infrastructure and provides the ranches, and then you can bring them water and fodder, I believe they will stay in one place and then they will do their business for the benefit of all of us. What you see now is because they don't have land, they don't have where to go, and then all the land is now farmers. They are farmers, and they move into this place and there will be clashes.
It is hoped that through this initiative, not only will conflicts be reduced, but also economic opportunities will be created for both farmers and herders. In Yobe State for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
In the midst of ongoing conflicts and the devastating loss brought by the insurgency in Nigeria's Borno State, women have refused to be silenced or sidelined. They seem determined to rebuild their lives and restore hope in their communities. News Centre's Umaru Kirawa crisscrossed both rural and urban Borno and now reports.
Adversities they face, the women of Borno continue to be the backbone of their communities and a beacon of hope. Aisa Modu, a mother of 6 whose husband was murdered in the peak of the insurgency, is now a head of household, providing for her family.
For
Fatima Ali, she had to abandon school to fend for herself and her younger brothers. Cup making is mostly what the women do to survive. The story of these women and many others in Borno showcases their unwavering determination to rise above the challenges they face. By showcasing their skills and sharing their stories, they contribute to the resilience and healing of their communities.
We want to see equal opportunity being provided to women. We have seen the resilience of women, most importantly within the northeastern part of Nigeria. So we have seen this resilience as an organization. We have been supporting them with livelihood opportunities.
Education is the key to liberate humanity. If we get this, our sisters' education, we believe the society will be of good and better for all of us.
On the sidelines, Borno State government has established second chance schools to engage women with training in various vocation and trade. Celebrations for the 2024 International Women's Day in Borno witnessed the empowerment of 3,000 women with food items and 50,000 naira each.
This year's celebration is not only talking about pushing women, but empowering them. Because tomorrow, inshallah, Ramadan starts. And he does not want us to go on the fasting on an empty stomach.
As advocates for the he for she movement, the resilience of our mothers, sisters, and wives in our dear state, the home of peace, in the current phase of daunting challenges, is highly recognized and acknowledged.
Empowering women to reach their full economic potentials will not only tangibly support the key goal of reducing gender inequality, but will also significantly advance healthy competition and future economic prosperity devoid of gender dominance worldwide.
Let's see how we shall empower women. During the last 4 years, we have established 5 technical and vocational schools. There is a need for the women to look into the possibility of earning their means of livelihood by themselves.
Despite efforts by humanitarian actors and the government, the truth is much needs to be done to support these women and other vulnerable persons to explore their potentials for sustainable growth. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
The Bayelsa State Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal has stepped down the motion filed by the candidate of the nation's All Progressives ruling Congress, Timi Silva, calling on members of the tribunal overseeing his petition to recuse themselves from the case. Sylvia is accusing the tribunal members of lacking the ability to deliver a fair judgment and do justice to his case. However, in a ruling on Monday, the chairman of the tribunal informed those present that a court of appeal has mandated the case to go on. Marvelous Obomano has details.
The petitioner in the disputed Bayelsa State governorship election, Timi Silva, is calling for a reconstitution of a fresh panel over claims that he might not get justice from the tribunal. Silva says he suspects he might not get a fair hearing. However, the defendant, Governor Doyedire, thinks the opposite, as he reaffirmed his trust in the judiciary, saying he is not deterred by the seeming distractions of the petitioners.
Filed one motion. Yes, very useless motion.
I just want to state that I have confidence in the judiciary and that I know that that is the last hope of the common man, and I know that they will give justice. So we have confidence in the Nigerian judicial system.
Ever since the Bayelsa State Governorship Petition Tribunal started, this is the first time the defendant in the case, the Executive Governor of Bayelsa State, Doyedire, is coming to court to witness the proceeding. But the petitioner in this case, Timi Silva, is calling on the Court of Appeal to disband the tribunal, saying he does not have faith in them. But the motion was rejected, and this means that the tribunal will continue presiding over the case.
The application just taken today was to the fact that the petitioners, which is our client, they are not satisfied with the record of the proceeding, and that's why they filed the application.
They had earlier written to the Court of Appeal President asking for disbandment of the panel which petition failed. And notwithstanding that, they now brought another motion. And these are petitioners who should want this matter to end expeditiously. But they brought another motion asking for the tribunal to recuse itself. So that motion was effectively argued today, and it was dismissed as lacking in merit.
The tribunal has, however, adjourned till March 13th for the nation's electoral body, INEC, listed as the first respondent to open its defense. While Silva has already called a total of 52 witnesses before closing his case, many believe that his call for the tribunal members to discontinue hearing his petition over lack of trust suggests the outcome, if not in his favor, might not be accepted. In Abuja for News Central, Marvelous Oboman.
There appears to be an agreement that an increase in Nigeria's minimum wage is necessary to support low-income workers. However, different views have emerged on what constitutes an appropriate level. While a substantial increase could further place pressure on companies and government entities already facing high operating expenses in the current economic environment, Labour representatives argue the existing minimum wage of 30,000 naira remains insufficient to reasonably provide for the basic needs of Nigerian employees. In this report, News Central's Niyo Money captures the various proposals from organized labour as public hearings on the minimum wage review begins.
The current minimum wage is 30,000 naira per month, according to the National Minimum Wage Act of 2019. But inflation has significantly reduced real earnings. Labour unions such as the Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress are demanding an upward revision of the minimum wage, arguing that the cost of living is increased faster than wages. After much agitation, public hearings for the Presidential National Minimum Wage Review begin across 6 geopolitical zones.
It was initially 125 in 1981. It moved to 5,500 in the year 2000, later on 18,000 in 2018. Now we have 30,000 subsisting. So it can be done again, but it has to be spirit of compromise. So proposal is not the same thing as agreement.
For housing, we are asking for 200,000 naira per month, which amounts to 2.4 million naira.
There are concerns about the ability of employers, especially state governments, to pay a higher minimum wage, given that some still owe workers the current minimum wage.
You can actually create long-term fund for specific areas such that as the wages increase, the monies are actually going back, particularly a sector like creating mortgage.
There is also a lack of consensus on what the new minimum wage should be, with different unions, Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress, proposing different amounts ranging from 447,000 naira to 850,000 naira. Northwest governors have opposed a higher minimum wage, saying their states cannot sustain it without changes to the national economy, like the revenue sharing formula. Some see this as an indication that the civil society may need to be decentralized to reflect regional differences.
It will amount to self-deceit to assume that salaries have equal ability to pay. To this effect, I will humbly advise that individual states will have to negotiate with their workers and agree to a realistic and sustainable minimum wage in the line with the available resources.
The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy of Nigeria, Wale Edu, had promised to collaborate with government at all levels towards tangible outcomes and a stronger economy that benefits all Nigerians.
There has been inflation, there has been depreciation of the currency, prices have gone up, and a new national minimum wage is well deserved and it is definitely due. And the actual figure will be as a function of a negotiation process.
Organized labor says completing the exercise is just the initial step, and sustained follow-through will be crucial to achieving real impact and allaying workers' concerns. In Lagos for News Central, Niyo Money.
You're watching News Now on News Central. And coming up, Angola suggests meeting between Kagame and Tshisekedi over regional insecurity. We have details shortly. Stay with us. The leaders of embattled neighbors, Rwanda and DR Congo, may be poised to meet to discuss fighting in eastern Congolese regions that Kigali has been accused of inflaming. Fighting between Tutsi M23 rebels and Congolese soldiers have forced more than 100,000 people to flee. The head of the French Anti-Terrorism Prosecutor's Office, Jean-Francois Richard, arrived in Kigali this Monday, a month before the 30th commemorations of the genocide against the Tutsi. It says there is a need to improve cooperation with the Rwanda Authority in order to fast-track the trial of suspected genocide perpetrators living in France.
Durante esa reunião
ficou acordado, portanto, que o presidente, em breve, o presidente Kagame aceita o princípio de encontrar-se com o presidente Tshisekedi numa data a ser, portanto, indicada pelo o medianeiro, e também a parte ruandesa aceita o princípio que já tinha sido acordado com a parte congolesa, no sentido de as delegações ministeriais trabalharem para se chegar a este passo.
About 125,000 Israelis have been evacuated so far from their homes since the start of the war. Among them are residents of Israel's north and south who have been directed to relocate for their safety since October 7th. The evacuation operations are under security coercion in communities located 4 to 7 kilometers from the border and the city of Sderot. The second stage of the evacuation was also under immediate military coercion, and they included settlements within 0 to 2 kilometers in the north, the city of Kiryat Shemona, and 14 other settlements in the north. All these communities are included in the government's plans. At least 16 people were arrested in Tel Aviv over the weekend as police clashed with demonstrators who were demanding the departure of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu after 5 months of war in Gaza. The protesters called for the return of hostages and the progress in talks on a hostage deal with Hamas. About 100 hostages remain in Gaza, with 31 presumed dead. The protesters also called for an immediate ceasefire, a position that Netanyahu's government has so far rejected, arguing it would amount to a victory for Hamas. Meanwhile, mediation to push for a new ceasefire deal has resumed. However, U.S. President Joe Biden confirmed a breakthrough was looking tough. Bitcoin attains a new peak driven by substantial investment from major U.S. finance firms and a green light for spot Bitcoin ETFs by U.S. regulators. The influx of institutional investors and available investment products linked to Bitcoin's value is pivotal to its recent surge, despite experts urging caution due to its inherent volatility. The upcoming halving events in April adds uncertainty. In parallel, Binance, a leading global crypto exchange, discontinues services involving the Nigerian naira amid regulatory dispute with the Nigerian government. Accusations of forex market manipulation and illicit fund movement reflecting the ongoing challenges in the crypto regulatory landscape. And to talk about this, I'm joined live on the news by Sheon Dania, CEO Trade Father. Good morning. Glad to have you join me, Sheon.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
So for the benefit of our audience, what is or what are Bitcoin exchange traded funds, and why did U.S. regulators permitted them?
Yeah, so the Bitcoin ETFs are significant development in the world of cryptocurrency. So essentially, a Bitcoin ETF is a fund that tracks the price of Bitcoin, allowing investors to be able to buy into the ETFs without going through the process of trading Bitcoin itself. So this means that investors can potentially profit from the price movement of Bitcoin without owning actual Bitcoins. So the reasons why the U.S. regulators, notably the Securities and Exchange Commission, will permit Bitcoin ETFs is primarily because they need to offer a regulated, more secure and accessible way of institutional and retail investors to gain exposure to Bitcoin. I think they understand that there's a growing interest, for investments in cryptocurrencies, and permitting ETFs is sort of like their way of bridging between traditional finance markets and the world of digital currencies.
Well, data shows us there is organic interest among Nigerians for the trade and transactions around Bitcoin and also cryptocurrency. How can Nigerians continue trading on such platforms without breaking the law?
Of course, Nigerians have always been interested in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies from Nigeria, since the inception of Bitcoin. So for Nigerians to continue trading, and transacting in cryptocurrencies without breaking the law is very important for everyone to stay informed, about the country's regulatory stance and comply with the existing financial regulations. So this might include, of course, as recently known, CBN has probably the federal government has banned access to some cryptocurrency exchanges. So basically, we should just look out for regulations, go with what the law permits. Ensure that we're only trading on the approved or licensed exchanges, as it were. Ensuring that all the transactions are also conducted transparently and within the bounds of the traditional finance laws.
Talking about regulations, Sheon, do you have any updates whatsoever from Nigeria Securities and Exchange Commission in terms of regulation for cryptocurrency exchanges?
Oh, yes. The Securities and Exchange Commission had actually put out a regulatory framework for virtual asset service providers in 2022. However, there were some, still some amendments that needed to be made. But I know that right now, they are revamping that framework, working hand in hand with all other government agencies, I think Ministry of Finance, the Central Bank, on how to properly regulate this cryptocurrency landscape, and it's important for both the users and operators of exchanges to stay abreast of any of all these updates. They haven't given a particular timeline as to when the licenses or the license regime will start or when people can start applying. But, we're all just, putting our ears on ground, also working to engage with the government regulators, to put in our own, lend our expertise wherever needed.
Let's talk a bit about the e-Naira. I mean, what's the current state of that initiative in terms of adoption?
The e-Naira, at some point gained some level of traction. It's the Nigeria digital currency, so to say, and it was launched by the central bank as part of its efforts to digitize the Naira and foster more inclusive and, bigger financial system. However, the state of adoption is still low, but I know that the central bank is actually putting in some work to ensure that they partner with other organizations, financial institutions to increase the adoption. I know there was a period in time when the CBN actually made some directives to the IMTOs, whereby when people do their remittances from offshore, the payments are made in e-Naira. So I'm sure on some platforms you probably might have been noticing that you have that now. But however, the CBN is definitely working on promoting the e-Naira, making it more accessible. And I think they've also taken the initiative to engage with stakeholders, understand how this e-Naira digital currency can actually go beyond the private blockchain that they have and, increase the adoption across the country. But I think it's still very much, there's a lot of work in progress.
Well, thank you so much for your insight on the news. Sheon Denia, CEO, Trade Father. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a good day.
You're watching News Central now. Let's take a short break. Stay with us. The Falconets have booked their place in the semi-final of the 2023 All-Africa Games Women's Football category after thrashing Senegal 4-0 in their second group game. Loveth Ede, Motunrayo Ezekiel, Chioma Olise, and an own goal from Senegalese defender were all Nigeria needed to complete the route and move to the semi-final. Christopher Danjuma's side had started their campaign on a winning note as they defeated Morocco 2-0 last Friday. The defending champions continued similarly, crushing Senegal 4-0 to record 6 points, 6 goals from 2 games and qualify as group winners. Nigeria's Flying Eagles beat South Sudan 1-0 in their second Group B game of the 13 African Games in Accra, Ghana. The Flying Eagles went into the game on the back of a 2-1 loss to Uganda. Sadiq Isiaka was the hero for the Flying Eagles as his second half penalty kick was enough to secure the win. The Flying Eagles will take on Senegal in their final group game on Friday. The Senegalese lost 1-0 to Uganda in their second Group B fixture on Monday. Following the win, Uganda have booked their place into the semi-finals of the men's football event. A draw should be enough for Laden Boss's men against Senegal to pick a semi-final ticket. South African swimmer contributed another 4 gold medals and 13 in total to Team SA's collection at the African Games. Catherine van Rosberg kicked off things with gold in the 400-meter freestyle, claiming victory in 4 minutes, 17.92 seconds, with Hannah Morton taking bronze in 4 minutes, 22.89 seconds. In the men's event, young Pretoria swimmer Matthew Caldwell secured the silver in a time of 3 minutes, 57.70 seconds, with Cameron Casali taking bronze in 3 minutes, 58.73 seconds. Egypt's Marwan Al-Kamash claimed gold in 3 minutes, 51.79 seconds. Jonah Paul Jones finished in a dead heat with Algerian Adebola in the men's event, with both swimmers powering to the finish 25.85 seconds to share the gold medal. Swimming action continues in Accra on Tuesday, with the competition wrapping up on Wednesday. Top seed Novak Djokovic was sent crashing out of the ATP WTA Indian Wells Masters, losing in 3 sets to lowly ranked Italian Luca Nardi. Nardi, ranked 123rd in the world, played superbly to win 6-4, 3-6, 6-3 as Djokovic returned to Indian Wells ended in a stunning third-round exit. Nardi became only the 6th player ranked outside the top 100 to defeat the world #1 at the Masters level since 1990. Djokovic has now lost 5 of his last 7 matches played against Italians, including 3 featuring 4th-ranked Jannik Sinner. And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take a look again at some of the major stories. President Tinubu has tasked Nigerians to feed the nation and have more for export. Nigerian Senator Ningi has insisted 3.7 trillion naira not traced to any project in the budget. We also told you that Angola has suggested meeting between Kagame and Tshisekedi over regional insecurity. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen and follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adedugba.